Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of CookieCast. Today on CookieCast, it's the football podcast. We're all here, we're all talking football, transfer news. Transfer window is still open, I'm reliably informed, so there is transfer news to talk about, and all the games from last week to go through, and all the games from this week to preview. Before we get started, please do consider like, share, subscribe and comment. Leave a review where you can leave a review. And share the podcast around is the big one. If you've got a football fan in your life, send them this podcast. They might even thank you for it. Right, let's get started. Here we go. This is CookieCast, the football podcast.
Welcome on in, ladies and gentlemen. It's that sound that you all know and love. It is, of course, another instalment of the CookieCast Podcast Network's football podcast for your eyes and ears. Obviously, for those of you watching us on YouTube, you're seeing me, you're hearing me. You're also hearing and seeing the voices and faces of the three stooges, as it were, to join me for the football podcast, Mr. Cook, Mr. Woodmansey, and Mr. Moore. How are we all this week, gents?
Good.
Excellent stuff.
Didn't lose last weekend, did we? So all
you know what? We come off the back of the lesser spotted Middlesbrough and Hull don't have a game, but Forest and insert Mr. Cook's team name at this particular point do weekend. So I had to put all my eggs into the Hartlepool United basket, and I was thoroughly rewarded with a 2-1 win against York City, of all teams. But as it was my wife's birthday on the weekend, I was unable to go to the game, sadly. So, damn it. Yes, I must get to that dirty smudge that I have on my head.
I'm pretty sure she's been called worse, mate.
So, yes, we come off the back of FA Cup 4th round weekend. So we'll dive straight in. The first game of the weekend saw Bristol City taking on Nottingham Forest. Matt, would you be upset if I was to give you a maximum of about 30 seconds to cover this game?
I can do it in less.
Excellent.
Boring.
Off you go.
0-0. Boring, lack of effort, lack of urgency. Morgan Gibbs-White's back. Morgan Gibbs-White is back. Done.
Every dark cloud, it would appear, does indeed have a supple silver lining. Yes, a drab, dreary 0-0 draw, which is probably good for neither of the sides, and it gives them the replay that they neither of them wanted.
Probably go with my 30 seconds of, why the fuck was it on Friday? Because it wasn't on telly.
This is the thing I don't understand with the FA Cup this season, because they've even started throwing Thursday night games, which helps absolutely nobody. The only thing I can assume is that it's TV stuff, that they're wanting to get more stuff on TV, and it's money at the end of the day, let's be honest.
But where? Because obviously it's not over here. It's not here, so you're not avoiding like the 3 o'clock rule. There was only 4 games on Saturday at 3 o'clock, which was shocking. That's not the FA Cup. The FA Cup should be like most of the games are at 3 o'clock on a Saturday. But no, we've got a game on Thursday, 4 on Friday. A few on, dotted all around on Saturday, 3 or 4 on Sunday, most of which aren't on telly, so it's a pain in the arse for people to try and watch the teams. Then another one on Monday as well. It's just like the dark reaches of the web to possibly watch your football, to watch your team, what you play.
It is a very, very odd happening that seems to be taking over the FA Cup. But alas, it's probably here to stay, so we probably can't do much about it.
Are they not just trying it to be a bit different, just to stretch out the appeal of the cup just that little bit further for
potentially. I know they did a thing a couple of seasons back where to sort of get through the games a bit quicker. I can't remember which round it was. It might have been the fifth or the fifth round of the quarterfinals.
Fifth round, yeah.
They put the round on midweek, so that all of the games were played.
Are they not doing that again though? I think this time as well.
Quite possibly. So all the games were played on like the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of that particular week, so that the teams wouldn't have to take a weekend out of the schedule to get the cup games in. I don't know. It just seems a bit odd to me because, like Matt said, you go from having say there's 32 ties, I think, in round 3, and then obviously you drop it by half each way through. So 32 ties in the third round. You'd normally expect that 24 of those would be played at Saturday 3 p.m. Then you drop it to obviously 32 ties. No, you drop it to 16 ties. 10 of those would be played on Saturday at 3 p.m. and so on and so forth. Fair enough, when you get to the quarterfinals and there's only 4 games, that's fine to have them at like different slots, and you'd have the Saturday lunchtime, Saturday evening, Sunday lunchtime, Sunday evening, and then that's fine. But yeah, at the moment it just seems a bit like they're trying to do a little too much coverage, and then when you see that not even all of the games are being broadcast, it just sits a bit strange. From a predictions perspective, you'll be shocked to hear that no one had a 0-0 draw. The closest anyone get was Stu with a 1-1 draw. So Stu is the only person who comes out of that game with any points. The situation is exactly the same for our second game, which was also played on the Friday night and saw Andrew's Chelsea taking on Aston Villa. This one also finished 0-0, but I believe that there actually was a goal scored in this one that was then ruled out for a VAR check. I believe Douglas Luiz managed to score for Villa, but it was overturned on the VAR. So another game that will go to a replay. Apparently, I did see this is a stat for you lads. I did see that if Chelsea are unable to make it through in the 4th round replay against Villa, it'll be the first time since something like the 1920s that no London clubs have made it past the 4th round of the FA Cup.
Lovely stuff. Fingers crossed for that, then.
There you go.
Predictions technically, that means you're cheering on Villa, so you know this.
Oh yeah. Predictions wise, again, you'll be shocked to hear no one had a 0-0 draw. The closest anyone had was Stuart with a 1-1 draw, so he's the only person to come up with points from the second game of the week. So that's 2 games down. Our third and final game of a very, very short week 26 saw Matt's team at Nottingham Forest in action again, going up against Arsenal. Obviously, this one had more riding on it than the cup game, certainly from a Forest perspective. Were they able to refocus their efforts and get the points they so richly need in their battle against relegation?
Short answer, no. But I think I didn't watch the game myself, but from reading reports and stuff, Forest kind of set up very similar to how they did last season, kind of like a low block, as the new phrase is, defending, stopping Arsenal from kind of letting them play their pretty football, but letting them play the pretty football in front of them, and it was going quite well until the second half when Arsenal had a throw-in, and both Montiel and Danilo seemed to fall asleep. And ball went to Jesus. He kind of had a little kind of scuttle to the byline, and put it through the keeper's legs, which is a common theme at Forest at the moment. Is we appear to have 4, maybe 5 goalkeepers. None of them are good enough. So 1-0 up for Arsenal with Jesus. Second The second goal came. I think Forest obviously started to try to chase the game from a corner or a free kick, I think. Balls played out by Arsenal. Came to Montiel, whose clearance was piss poor, was a polite way of putting it. Went straight to one of the Arsenal players, who then carried it to the edge of the box, played it to Saka, stuck it in the back of the net. Kind of pretty much all over and done with by then. But kind of talking about kind of silver linings from the previous game, Taiwo Awoniyi came on at half time for Chris Wood and marked his comeback with what turned out to be a consolation goal in the 88th or 89th minute. It got checked. It got VAR checked. I've seen the goal a couple of times. I don't know why. There was no hint of any offside anywhere, which was what the check was apparently for. And then everyone's favourite twat of a referee, Mike Riley, who somehow managed to swindle himself a job on Sky Sports, was like, oh, maybe it's for a foul. Again, there was no foul.
Do you not think it's more because you were playing Arsenal?
Yeah.
One of the top four teams, and it's like, oh, let's double check to make sure that Arteta's not going to cry like a little bitch about it afterwards.
Yeah. But it seems to be this typical kind of Taiwo finish. Kind of gets sometimes he has the obviously his God stuff must be working because he gets all the lucky bounces, the kind of lucky bounce from his turn, and then sticks it in the back of the net. So nice finish. Apparently, there was a VAR check for a penalty for Forest. That evidence has been hidden by everybody. Mainly, I presume the Arteta family have got involved and tried to make sure that it's hidden away.
No, it wasn't that. It was definitely at the end of the game. So when they scored with like a couple of minutes to go, plus the injury time, it set up like the cliched grandstand finish. And Forest did actually give it a good go. But when they shouted for the penalty, the replays that they kept showing wasn't for an Arsenal foul on a Forest player in the box. It turned out that it was from two Forest players running into each other. They checked it because they weren't sure.
Or they decided to give themselves a little laugh.
I must admit, when I saw the replay, I was like, oh my God, it's going to be a pen. And then I was like, oh God, that is one of the worst decisions I've ever seen. And the fact that they felt they had to go for the referral. It was, it was pretty bad.
It wasn't.
To the referee's defence, it was pretty frantic in the last few minutes, though. So if he hadn't quite have caught up with it, then I suppose it's better to be safe than sorry. But, let's not stop the game for 10 minutes because of that.
But yeah, so ends 2-1 to Arsenal. Their first win in 4 games at the City Ground. So
disappointing. Sadly, from a predictions perspective, disappointing as well for Mr. Cook, who was the only one who went for not an Arsenal win. He'd gone for a 1-0 with Morgan Gibbs-White to score. Stuart gone for a 2-1 to Arsenal, so bags himself 2 points. He also had Saka as the goal scorer, so gets himself a bonus point for that. Matt had 3-1. Also had Jesus and Saka both to score. I had a 3-0 with Saka to score. So I get myself a bonus point for the goal scorer there. So ending the week, sadly, Mr. Cook, 0 points from 3 games. Disappointing. I had 2 points from 3 games. Matt, 3 points from 3 games, but taking them in this week with a whopping 5 points from the 3 games. Mr. Stuart Woodmansey will win. So, week 27's fixtures are on the horizon. 6 in total. Before we get to week 27's fixtures, we are going to take a small break, and when we come back, the transfer window shuts as of 11 p.m. tomorrow evening. So, will we see some ins and outs? Almost certainly. Have there been ins and outs that we need to cover? Yes. We'll do that as soon as we come back. Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back with you. Yes, indeed. We are back underway, and as we said before the break, we would open the rejoining of the podcast with some transfer window activity talk. I feel like I'll jump in first with the Borough news, as if what I understand from is coming from the Hull side of things, we might be here for a good while. So it's just a simple one in for the Borough. We've signed fullback Luke Thomas on a rest of season loan from Leicester City. I think he's a player who comes with a fair bit of pedigree. He was in the cup winning side from a couple of years back when they beat Chelsea in the final. He's played a decent number of games in the Premier League for Leicester. I think he might have got an injury which set him back a little bit, and he's not been able to get himself back into the first team at Leicester. So he's obviously come to the Borough for the remainder of the season. He mainly plays as a left back. The talk is that he's been brought in as cover for Alex Bangura. Injury that he picked up against Chelsea seems to be a little bit worse than first thought. So it could be that he's out for the rest of the season. Obviously, Thomas has come in as the cover for him. There is also an out that happened a number of weeks ago that I completely missed and forgot to bring up. And it is in that left sort of area. Hayden Coulson, who started the season as the club's only recognised left back, or left wing back, depending on the system they were playing. He's gone on loan to Blackpool for the remainder of the season. So I would imagine that's the first steps in finding Mr. Coulson at another club, as I don't think he's really at an age where he's proved that he can be a first team regular or anything like that. So I think it's probably the best for him to move on. I imagine he'll probably be moved on permanently in the summer. So yeah, one in, one out at the Borough. Has there been any permanent additions or withdrawals from a Forest perspective at this point, Matt?
No confirmed additions yet, but lots kind of on the way, possibly.
On the periphery, as it were.
Yeah, just on the horizon, they're kind of coming in like the usual kind of barrage towards the end of the transfer window, as it were. But we've had two outs. Scott McKenna, whose contract is up in the summer, and struggled to kind of like get a game since we got into the Premier League. He's gone on loan for the rest of the season to FC Copenhagen. So trading in bottom of the league at Forest to Champions League for Champions League football. And Ollie Hammond, he was a youth player that had been on the bench a few times, has made a permanent move to Oldham. I think he's one of them ones that unfortunately is a victim of the kind of sudden rise to the Premier League. I think if he would have been in the Championship still, he might have got a couple of games and be possibly playing. But we aren't, so he hasn't. So he's gone on a permanent transfer to Oldham. I think he was in the last year of his contract anyway. So yeah.
So yes, obviously keep an eye on the incomings at Forest at the end of the transfer window. I imagine Borough will be similar. They'll probably try and do a little bit of business as well, which leaves us with Hull. And I understand there's a complete boatload, quite possibly literally a full boat of both incomings and outgoings since we last spoke.
Well, maybe not quite that many. Although, as you rightly said, at time of recording, the transfer window doesn't close for just over 24 hours. So there's still a couple of rumours, but we'll get to that. First off, on last week's podcast, as we were actually recording, it had just been announced that Andy Smith has gone on loan to Cheltenham Town until the end of the season. So a defender who's played a few times for us this season, most notably in the cup games, actually looked decent. Quite surprised he's gone. but it is only on loan. And interestingly, Cheltenham was the club that Jacob Greaves went to on loan once upon a time. So they've obviously got some sort of link there, and aren't afraid to get the players back once they're been improved. So I guess watch this space. I did like him. I thought he looked decent. So hopefully, like I say, that is just a temporary move. Now, sound the alarm, ladies and gentlemen. Ruben Vinagre, left back, has been recalled by his parent club, Sporting CP. Great, absolutely fantastic. We now have no left back in the building, but I would still suggest that, unfortunately for him, has been better than that signing on loan this season. He has either been injured or just terrible. Now he can do both back at his parent club, so that's not the worst news in the world. 2 more outs. We had Jason Lakilo go out on loan to Portuguese side FC Vizela. He's not set the world on fire. We only signed him at the beginning of this season. Did embarrassingly have a little look back through the notes because I was pretty sure I'd done this and confirmed it earlier today in preparation for the podcast and marked him as my one to watch, and now hasn't even managed the full season with us as he's sent on his loan travels to Portugal. Hopefully he'll learn more than one trick whilst he's there. Now, probably the saddest news of the outs. I'm looking at you, Mr. Cook. I hope you've got your box of tissues ready, because just before time of recording, it was confirmed that Aliar Syed Manesh has gone. Not on a loan, but on a permanent transfer to Belgian side KVC Westerlo for an undisclosed amount of money. Probably a Milky Way and a bag of wheat crunchies, I should imagine. He appeared 40 times for Hull. Only scored 3 times, which seems ridiculous because if he'd only scored as many times as Andy Cook had predicted, maybe he would still be there now. But yeah, he looked great when he was with us on loan. A lot of pace, not a lot of end product. Also likes a cheeky little punch in the ribs occasionally to the opponents. So he's got that yellow card about him. But yeah, no longer have to worry about that for City. Now, probably a little bit more interesting are the 2 names coming in. One, we just have Ryan Giles signed on loan for the rest of the season from Luton Town. So he potentially is a left back that we needed, and Paul will probably have a little bit more to say, I should imagine, as he spent a portion of time on loan up at the Borough. I'm quite pleased with that one, to be honest.
Yes, he was leading assist maker in the Championship last season whilst on loan at the Borough. A very attack-minded left back, I will say. Tends to think of attack first, defend second, which obviously is great from a goal scoring perspective, but obviously not so good from if he's attacking all the time. Your guy who's playing the left of your midfield 3/2/whatever will need to have his head switched on at all times because he's going to be doing a lot of cover. Is all I'd say. But from what I saw last season, really enjoyed him. Obviously, in the summer, there was talk that he had the opportunity to join Luton or Middlesbrough on a permanent from when he left Wolves. I think both teams had bids accepted by Wolves. And obviously he took the opportunity to go to the Premier League. Hasn't worked out for him as he's not really been picked. Back that he must have been playing with last season, must have got the nod. I think his name's Alfie Doughty. So yeah, he's not really had a look in, to be honest with you. So it is just a loan deal. Is there any sort of talk of it being one that there's an agreed fee up front, or like sort of in the paperwork for them if they want to make it permanent in the summer?
Of the two signings that we made, there was, I'm sure it was him. Yeah, he's the one that's got the option. So, the official press release read, the 24-year-old has joined on loan for the remainder of the season, with the club having the option to buy him permanently at the end. But it is an option. It's not like they have to.
Agreed. Yeah, not an obligation.
Yeah, I think it'll be one of them whereby if we went up through the playoffs, he'd probably jump at the chance. Whether or not that actually happens obviously remains to be seen, and I should suggest a lot of that will probably depend on the next signing I'm about to talk about, and any more signings we get between now and the window closing. So yeah, the second in was possibly the worst signing that could have been made for anybody with a Hull accent, and the young guy's name is Noah Ohio. So obviously in Hull, slightly exaggerate that, it'll be Noah Ohio, which is
will it not be Noah Ohio?
Yeah, probably it'll be that kid. Yeah, he's signed on a loan from Standard Liège. He's only 21. He's played for the Netherlands under-21 side 6 times and has scored 5 times in those 6 games. Haven't got his club stats. The fact that they didn't put that all in the press release tells me they're probably not quite as good. But it's one of them that, again, they've touted him as one that they've been watching. It fits the Liam Rosenior profile of getting a younger player in for a bit of development. We desperately needed a striker, having gone from being spoilt with what we had to then all of them catching a knock of some description. Apart from Billy Sharp, who is the same age as me, pretty much. So yeah, I think that one was more a case of they had the opportunity. We needed somebody who can put the ball in the net, and he, like I said, fits the Liam Rosenior profile. So fingers crossed it works out. But they've strengthened where they needed to strengthen. They've got rid of probably slightly more than I anticipated, particularly with the Kilo one and perhaps the Andy Smith one. But it's rumoured that there's still potentially another 2 signings to come in. One of them is all but confirmed, apparently, which is I think it's a Turkish creative midfielder from Trabzonspor, or however you say it.
Turkish?
I think he's Turkish, yeah.
They never sign any Turkish players.
Well, we do, and then we sell them on the next season, apparently, is how it works. Apart from Tufan. Which I'm not grumbling at the fact we've not sold him, because he's seemingly come good this year. So,
and that's actually a Turkish team I've heard of, because sometimes you just sign random guys from random Turkish teams. I'm like, nope, never heard of that team. You could genuinely be making that one up. Whereas Trabzonspor, I've heard of.
So yeah, that's as at time of recording, that is everything that has been confirmed. But I feel like we may have another few minutes on next week's podcast just to wrap up the old transfer business.
Yeah, I think obviously by the time we get recording next week, the transfer window will have officially shut, so we'll know exactly what our teams have got to go with from then until the end of the season.
They'll have had all that extra time they need for the fax machines to feed all the stuff through, so the deals can go through like an hour after the window closes and all that completely legitimate stuff.
Of course. So that's the transfer business done and dusted. Which means we move swiftly on to the 6 games that comprise of Week 27's fixtures. And that first game sees Mr. Woodmansey's Hull City taking on Millwall. And this one isn't taking place on a Friday night. What's that all about?
Not even on Sky. How rude.
This is absolutely unheard of, ladies and gentlemen. Obviously, it's Mr. Woodmansey's team, therefore he will give his prediction last. As mine's nicely written in the book, I'll open us up this week. I have 2-1 Hull win. And for a goal each for Carvalho and Jacob, and a goal back for Millwall from Fleming. Matt, what have you got for Hull Millwall?
I've also gone for a 2-1 Hull win.
Yes.
With Carvalho.
Yep.
And Ohio. Going to get very exciting in the whole area on Saturday.
Straight in.
All of them properly pronounced vowels.
Just when they finish saying Carvalho, then they'll Ohio.
Oh my God, Carvalho, Ohio.
And then I've got Obafemi scoring for Millwall. He's just signed on loan from Burnley.
Obafemi. All of them.
Obafemi. Oh my God,
I'll just gently...
Carvalho, Ohio, Obafemi. It's like Answer Smash at House of Games. All the goal scorers just rolled into one. It's lovely.
I hadn't even thought about that. Oh man, next week.
If you could do that next time when I'm just taking a mouthful of coffee, that'd be great.
I feel like I've gone with not being optimistic now. All these goals for all that. I've gone with a 1-1 draw.
Ooh.
I'm like, scorers.
I'm letting the side down. Sharp for Hull. And it's been a while since I had the opportunity to say this, but Mr. Honeyman to score for Millwall. I did point out earlier that I was spoilt for old boys in the Millwall side. So I went with the Honeyman himself.
Yes, indeed. Go on then, Stu, how do you see this one going? And obviously you'll be in attendance with your season pass, no doubt.
I will indeed. It's been a couple of weeks since we've had a home game, so it'll be nice to get back. And speaking of getting back, making the schedule to make a return this week is none other than, in Liam Rossini's own words, the league's best winger. And Jayden Philogene makes his return. So stick me down for a 1-0 Hull win with Jayden to do the business.
Jayden Philogene. Very, very nice. That's it for the Saturday games. So we move swiftly on to Sunday, where there are 3 games taking place at both our sides. The first of which is live on Sky Sports at 12 a.m. 12 a.m., 12 p.m. Christ almighty, I hope it's not at 12 a.m. 12 p.m. Middlesbrough versus Sunderland in the it's not a derby, but as soon as we get beaten by them, we always seem to throw our toys out of the pram derby with Sunderland.
That's a really long title for Sky to put on the heading.
Yeah, it's a weird one, but watch for it, because as soon as they lose, they sure as hell give their opinions on it. They certainly did earlier in the season when it was 4-0. But that's not for me to say. Middlesbrough versus Sunderland, my team. I will therefore go last. Let's go to Andy for his prediction first.
I've got the Borough down to win 2-1.
Okay.
I'm sure I'm about to reel off a list of names of people who are either not playing for these clubs or injured. So here we go. Fours. And Greenwood to score for the Borough. The little bird told me that there was a Greenwood-Sunderland connection, so got to get that in there. And I've gone with Semedo for Sunderland.
Matt?
I've gone for a 1-1 draw with Greenwood for Middlesbrough and Bellingham for Sunderland.
Stu?
Same score as Matt, different goal scorers. So I've gone 1-1, and I've got Hackney for the Borough and Clark for Sunderland.
Yes, this is somewhat of a odd homecoming of sorts for Jack Clark for Sunderland. whilst he was at Leeds, he played a game against Borough where he got taken off at half time and then suffered some sort of seizure when he was on the bench. Hopefully, nothing of that sort of thought happened this time. And hopefully, he has a much nicer return to the Riverside. I don't know if this is the first time he'd have played there since that occurred. But yeah, hopefully nothing untoward happened this time.
Based on his form this season, it's not obviously been long lasting, has it? Because he's come back from it stronger.
He's certainly bounced back from it certainly well. I've gone for a 2-0 Borough win on this one. Sunderland are a bit up and down, they're a bit all over the place, so I think we can probably capitalise on that. I've gone for a goal each from Greenwood and new signing Finn Azaz's first for the club. Fingers crossed for that. Our second game of Sunday and third game of the week sees Mr. Moore's team, Nottingham Forest, travelling down to Bournemouth. Again, let's hope there's no storm activity in the Dorset area so that stadium doesn't suffer some irreparable damage that causes the game to be called off again. Mr. Moore's team will go last. I'll jump straight in here. I've gone for a 1-1 draw. If still at the club, I've gone with Dominic Solanke to score for Bournemouth and Gibbs White to score for Forest. Stu, what have you got for Bournemouth Forest?
Another 1-1 draw. Different goal scorers. I've got Clivert for Bournemouth and Dominguez for Forest.
Andy?
There must be something in the water, as I've gone for a 1-1 draw. Not only that, I've got Solanke down to score for Bournemouth. But come on, gents, there's never going to be an opportunity on a podcast where I'm not saying I've got Wood for Forest. Do love me some Forest.
Matt, how do you see this one playing out for the boys in the Garibaldi?
I think it's draws all round, I think. But you lot should have cast your minds back to what, about 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago? Obviously, Forest lost 3-2 to Bournemouth in a kind of veritable goal fest or a demonstration of how not to defend, which probably means this is going to be a 0-0 draw now. I've got 2 each. Solanke and Billing to score for Bournemouth. And Gibbs White and Awonyi for Forest.
He is back, and he is back amongst the goals, as we heard earlier. So let's hope.
If he can only do 45 minutes, I'd play him from the start.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Get him on. Get him on. Get on the front foot. Get some goals, and see where we go from there. As opposed to, bring him on when we're a couple of goals down to try and salvage something.
Yeah, I'd agree with that one. Our last game from the Sunday slate sees Mr. Cook's team, Chelsea, taking on Wolves. Now, for those of you out there who are looking and saying, hang on a second, Chelsea have got a game here that you haven't covered. Yes, we know, but they were playing against Liverpool. They were playing this evening. They were basically playing at a time where by the time it had finished, it was going to be ungodly late. So we've just skipped the game. We're not covering it. Don't want to hear any more about it. Regardless of what happens with the result, Andy will remain a Chelsea team. He'll remain a Chelsea supporter. It's not just because they're 2-0 down as we're recording, but we won't get into that. So Chelsea versus Wolves is our third and final game from the Sunday slot. Obviously, it's Mr. Cook's team, therefore he will go last. I've gone for a 1-0 Chelsea win here, and I don't quite know why I've done this, but I've gone with Mudryk to score, which is ridiculous because I think he is absolute toss. Stu?
I'm firstly going to start off by saying if you are disappointed about us then not potentially covering Liverpool. Two things. Go and have a little word with yourself in a quiet corner. And if you're still really disappointed, go into your kitchen, open the bin, and have a good old dive in. Right. I've gone for Chelsea 2, Wolves 0 with Fernandes and Palmer.
Matt?
I've also gone for a Chelsea win. I've gone for a 3-1 win with Fernandes, Palmer, Sterling, Chelsea, and is it Kuna for
Cunha.
Wolves?
Cunha. Go on, Mr. Cook. Tell us how you feel it's going to pan out for the boys in blue.
I'm feeling good about this because I've got a very similar sort of thing going on to a lot of you gentlemen. I've got a 2-0 for Chelsea, and I also have Sterling and Palmer to score those goals. So, I think we're on a winner, eh?
Palmer, certainly a solid choice as a goal scorer at the moment for Chelsea. Our 5th and 6th games are the replays of the fourth round FA Cup games from earlier in the week. So, the first of which is Mr. Moore's team, Nottingham Forest, taking on sort of Andy's team in Bristol City. Obviously, if you know, you know. Nottingham Forest versus Bristol City. I'll dive in first. I've gone for a 2-0 Forest win. Awoniyi and Danilo goals. Andy, what have you got for Forest versus Bristol City?
Again, similar, just not quite the same. Just a 1-0, and I was reliably informed that Awoniyi was back and was getting amongst the goals, so got to pick him on that.
Absolutely. Stu?
It's a cup game, so the cup striker will be back. So I've got 1-0 to Forest with Wood to score.
Yeah, where's that?
I believe I saw a little bit of a nod of agreement there. So, Matt, are you in full agreement with that?
Yeah, you've got to get Wood for the cup. So yeah, I've gone for a 2-1 Forest win. Wood, Hudson-Odoi, and Conway for Bristol City.
Very nice. And our final game of the week, closing us out, it's Chelsea again, but they are going to Birmingham to take on Aston Villa. And as we stated, if they don't overcome Villa, it will be the first time that no London clubs have made it through to the 5th round of the FA Cup since something like the 1920s or something like that. Obviously, it's Mr. Cook's team, so he will close out the podcast this week for us. I believe there will be no London-based clubs in the 5th round. I've gone for a 2-1 Villa win on this one. I've gone for Watkins and Diaby to score for Villa, Palmer to score for Chelsea. Stu, how do you see this one for Villa-Chelsea?
Based on the game the other night, I feel like we're getting the full cup experience, and it'll be extra time, penalties, the full shebang. So after 90 minutes, I've gone for 1-1 with Watkins and Sterling. Sterling seems really overdue for Chelsea at the moment, so it's got to happen at some point.
Well, he's got the semi-finals out of his system without scoring, hasn't he? So he's probably eligible to score again in games now. Matt, how do you see Villa Chelsea?
I've gone for a 2-1 Chelsea win. I'm kind of worried they're going to start to go on a bit of a run now. They seem to have got the team sorted and stuff like that. So I've gone McGinn for Villa, and then Sterling and Palmer for Chelsea.
I mean, you say that, but they absolutely crapped the bed last night against Newcastle, didn't they?
Yeah. Chelsea are getting stuffed by Liverpool now.
Yeah. Mr. Cook, your
0-0.
boys. Give us how you feel it's going to go.
A 0-2. A 2-0 win to Chelsea. I've got Palmer again. But I thought I'd mix things up and went with Richards.
Who?
I knew that was going to happen.
Maybe Mika's coming down from the old commentary position.
Let's have a look.
He is right here.
Dushwan Richards. I mean, I can put him down, but I'm going to put it out there. I'm almost certain he'll be a youth team prospect who probably won't get anywhere near the squad.
He wasn't on the bench for the last game.
My other option was Broja.
He might not be there.
Yeah, there's talk of clubs putting bids in for him.
Honestly, it's like...
Because I'm a nice guy, Andy, do you want me to put you down for Carney Chukwuemeka?
Yeah, absolutely.
Damn it, I need to know how to spell Carney Chukwuemeka.
Imagine if they were playing Forest this week and Andy's prediction would have been Wood Chukwuemeka for the 2-goal scorer.
How much would a Wood Chukwuemeka chuck if a Wood Chukwuemeka chuck? Yeah, can't do it. Can't do it. Too hard.
Love it.
Chukwuemeka. That concludes all of the week's games. Do we have odds this week? The games.
Well, I mean, we have lots of odds. I hadn't had to do it for the last couple of weeks, so if I'm completely truthful, completely forgot. I can try and quickly do that if you'd like, or we can just leave it until next time. It's up to you.
Yeah, we'll just. It's not essential for us to be able to get it. So yeah, that is 6 games predicted for week 27, and we've gone through all of the happenings and ins and outs and whatnots for week 26. Even brought you a little bit of transfer news. Thank you, as always, for these 3 wonderful gentlemen for joining me to go through the ins and outs, ups and downs, tributes and turmoils and whatnot of their clubs and of my own. Join us again next week where we'll break it all down again. We'll go through the games that we've just predicted. We'll predict some more games and we'll probably tell you who our teams either brought in or let go at the last minute of the transfer window. I'm sure my team at least will probably be significantly weakened by having sold all of their goal scoring talent. It will be awesome. Join us next week, lads. Ladies and gents. We'll do it all again for you. Until then, tatty bye for now.
So there you go, what do you think of that? Another one done, another one gone, another week of games gone, and another week of games to come. Big thank you for watching, big thank you for listening, big thank you for being here. Before you go, please do consider like, share, subscribe and comment. Leave a review where you can leave a review. And check out the website, thecookiecast.com. There we have social media links and an email button, and that way you can get in touch with us. That's it for this one. Till next time, I'm going to say bye, and I'll see you then.
Thank you for listening to these grumpy old men talk about football. If you've enjoyed this episode, please like, share and subscribe.